I'm just very tired that a lot of people think that elegant style is all about modest clothing. It's not. Have a look on old Hollywood movies and there is a lot of bombshells, beautiful women that show their bodies and they enjoy it.
Karina has amassed a following of over 970,000 followers on Instagram, all around her interest in vintage, classy fashion.
I had no friends and I had internet, and that's how it all started. 23 years old, I was working on myself. You need to run very fast to stay in the same place. I lost everything, my family lost everything, and people were dying around me and bombs were exploding around me. And then...
Welcome to Curating Life Lessons. Today we have Karina Lira. Karina has amassed a following of over 970,000 followers on Instagram, all around her interest in vintage, classy fashion. She'll tell us how she makes money being a fashion influencer, how she first got started, where she draws inspiration from, and more. Karina, welcome to the show.
Hello, nice to be here.
Excellent. Okay, so first question. How did you first get into this? How did you first start posting on Instagram or other social media platforms?
I had no friends and I had internet, and that's how it all started. I was like outcast when I was a teenager, so it all started when I was like 16, and it was becoming more popular abroad, like blogging, like Tumblr and different writing blogs, and I was very into that. And also YouTube started to gain in more popularity, and I started with like just YouTube. I was a YouTube vlogger, and interesting that it was crazy unsuccessful. I spent 2 years of my life working on a YouTube channel, and it was very, very unsuccessful. I was very sad. But then I started Instagram, and it developed very, very good with time.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. So you did 2 years of YouTube
Yeah.
and then only moved to Instagram.
Yeah.
What sort of year was this that you went to Instagram?
I think it was 2019.
2019.
Yeah.
And then from 2019 to the point you are now, at what point did you start making money from it? At what point were you able to monetize your following?
I think I started monetizing my account when I found my style, like classy vintage style, because on social media you have a lot of people and unfortunately they look all the same, and it's very hard to find your audience when you don't have nothing unique about you. It can be not about only like your clothing, it can be about what you speak about, and etc. So there should be some interesting points, unique points. And when I found my unique style, it all started to grow fast. Yes, and I started gaining more and more followers. I was writing in Ukrainian language and in English. It was very wise. And slowly, maybe when I had like 100,000 followers, I started gaining money. Meanwhile, I was working full-time and studying at the university. So I was studying at the university, working full-time, and had a hobby as a blog. And I was working in marketing agency full-time. And it was very draining for 2 years. And then my blog started giving me more money than my official serious work, in very good company. And I was like, well, I'm unhappy on my official job. I can continue do both jobs, but I was very unhappy. And like, I was making a lot of money for that age, like when I was 22, 21. Mm-hmm. But I was very unhappy. I was drained. I was kind of even depressed. I had panic attacks in the toilet on my work. It was awful. And then I was like, well, I'm young and I want to enjoy my life. And I quit my job and I became a full-time influencer.
Wow.
At the age of 23, I would say. So from the 23 years old, I was working on myself.
I like that. Wow. Did you draw inspiration from anyone else? Maybe not necessarily vintage fashion specifically, but any other creators or maybe celebrities that had done something similar?
So I'm Ukrainian. That's why I'm gonna do a lot of mistakes in English today. It's not my first language, so I think I found like vintage classy style because of Instagram. And there was one girl from Ukraine who lived in Paris, and she was dressed in fully vintage, and I was like, wow, you can do that to look so unique. Because before I was like a punk girl. I was very into rock and punk style because I wanted always to look different. I don't know why, but for me it was always important to look different. But then everybody became punks and rockers, and it was just like everywhere. And I was like, there is no point of that. So I would say Instagram, like just different people online, different ladies who were dressed in classy vintage. And of course, as for all girls, Dita Fontis, she is a very famous burlesque performer, and she dresses daily in 1950s, 1940s style. So that was very inspirational for me. Like old movies, Tim Burton movies. I love his movies, cartoons. It's always was about something old, antique, strange. So I think I was always into that. I was always a girl from different century. That's how my parents called me.
I like that.
So I was born with that.
So what do your parents think of your career that you've taken?
Well, they're very happy for me, and I think it's the most important thing in your life to hear from your parents that we are proud of you. It's very important, and they constantly say to me. An interesting fact that if I would stay on my corporate job, like good one, after full-scale war happened, I wouldn't be in London because I would continue working on Ukrainian company and have my maximum salary like 2,000-3,000 euros. It's a maximum for Ukraine, like young people. And I wouldn't be able to travel the world and live wherever I want. So my parents are very happy about it. They always support me. Yeah, I'm very happy about it.
Oh, I like that. And what year did you come to London?
So I'm only 1 year here. I'm a new baby.
Yeah.
I'm a little baby in London. And I love it. Like, I moved here alone from Porto, and to move alone to London is just crazy insane. I was calling my plan to move to London a suicide plan because I just couldn't believe that it's possible to do alone when you're like influencer. And I moved here, and it's been a year, and it's wonderful. I think it's one of the best experiences which you can have in your 20s, 30s when you're young.
And how do you find creating content in London?
Awful. Awful. How do you do that, people here? Like, it's so dark and rainy and cold. Like, I moved from Portugal, and it's a sunny country most of the time. And it's a struggle to do content here. I think London is the most stressful city in Europe. Nothing is more stressful. Like, this city makes you ugly. Like awful water, awful weather, everything is very expensive. Like, it's hard to be beautiful here, and very busy city. So to allow yourself to walk on heels every day, to have good skin, to have good hair, to have good nails, it's expensive and it's hard to maintain. But yeah, if you're strong enough, you can do that.
Interesting. And what was that quote from Alice in Wonderland you shared just before the podcast?
Yeah, so you need to run very fast to stay in the same place. And that's how I see London. You need to run very fast. And if you're strong enough, you will succeed here. But if no, then no. I think if you work connected to London, to some clients who live here, it will be great. But otherwise, the city is so depressive. Like... so depressive. I mean, if you work as a teacher, for example, it's hard here. I think it's hard. But if you work connected to like some rich people, rich clients, art, concerts, like this sphere, I think you will succeed here.
Gotcha. And how do you find that your Instagram profile has helped you network with different people in London?
Oh my God, that's so good. Like, create Instagram because it's your portfolio. People see you through this page. And when I moved to London, I was moving to different countries alone, and it's very hard because when you go to the city, nobody waits you there. Like mentally, it's hard. And if it continues several years, it's very hard to do that again and again. And when you move somewhere, it always takes you a lot of time to create your own routine, to don't feel lonely, to make yourself busy, to try to find friends. And I have very specific tastes. And for me, it's very hard to make friends. So I moved here because I have a lot of friends here, and because I'm a vintage girl, and the vintage society here is just insane. And immediately, because of my Instagram, I found very interesting people, very interesting collaborations, and it's been very, very interesting time. And in my first week when I moved to London, I had 3-4 parties just daily with my friends, or somebody invited me. So that was very, very cool.
And in terms of photo shoots and filming, how much of that do you do yourself? Do you have people that help you out? How does it work?
So I do everything alone. I have my friend, partner in crime, and she's also influencer. And we work together. And that's great. When you have a friend with whom you can hang out, make it funny, and at the same time work, I think it's the best thing which can happen to you. So I do everything alone: photography, video making, hair, style, clothing. So yeah, everything alone.
If you were to think about the way that you developed your skill around photography and videography, if you could speak to yourself a few years ago, what advice would you give someone looking to get into photography and videography?
Don't be afraid to invest in your gadgets like cameras, etc. And just be active, write to different people, try to maintain new collaborations with people, to meet new people. Just be active and try to use all your ideas, I want to be like Tom Ford. So he's very successful designer, very successful movie maker, and very successful in decoration world. He's successful in everything. I want to be like Tom Ford, He works in totally different spheres, and everything what he touches is just successful. So yeah, just be brave and act fast. Don't wait, because somebody will steal your idea.
And when you say write to people, do you mean sending DMs?
Yeah, sending DMs. Have a beautiful portfolio. Work on your portfolio, because, oh my God, I see so many awful photographers. People who started doing photography, but they don't have an eye for beauty. And it's very important to have a polished idea of aesthetic, because it's not about being a photographer. It's not just about knowing the rules of photography, about how to make lines straight, a pure horizon, and just press a button. Being a photographer, it's years and years of knowledges which you maintain in your head through all your life. If you want to be a good photographer, learn everything except of also photography. Learn art, learn music, learn video music clips, photography, modeling world, old movies. You need to have a very good idea of aesthetic, and it can be different, aesthetic beauty can be very different for each person, but choose your icons, very high level icons, people, and learn everything about them, and then when you will have the perception of beauty, Tom Ford, I don't know, Yves Saint Laurent, something like big names for me in classy world, yes, and just realize and find those moments of beauty and something ugly.
Interesting. And if there was someone who felt that they weren't progressing in photography and videography, and they were hitting a creative block, they weren't sure how to move forward, what advice would you give them?
Just make it fun. It's art. And people will feel if you're making for money. If you're just doing it for money, people always will feel it. It's about, I think, any any sphere of art. You know, art needs to be joyful and it needs to be creative. And if you're making it just for money, then no, just try to take a rest. Don't do nothing, you know, just reflect in your mind what you want for like a couple of days, I don't know, a month, how much you need, and just make it fun, enjoy it, you know, and then you will discover with time what you like. Maybe you even don't need it, or change the sphere. There's like different types of photography or videography, but I think the most important is fun, enjoyment, when you feel that you love it and it brings you joy. Because for many years I was working full time and I had no time and energy for art. And when I was like when I had only 2 weekends to sleep till 12 o'clock, because every day I was waking up at 6. And instead of sleeping till 12, I was waking up anyway at 6 o'clock and going and doing some crazy photo shoot, you know. And then I rewatched those photos and videos of me and I was like, I was so sleepy and dead, but at the same time, my soul needed it. When I was sitting in like gray office with a laptop, like counting numbers, my soul needed it, you know, even though I was feeling so bad. So just find joy in this.
I like that, finding joy in it. And now thinking about the other side of the camera, when you're the model and you're posing for the camera, what goes through your mind?
I think in case I've been doing modeling for such a long time, since I was a teenager, and now I'm trying to be more behind the camera as photographer. I'm just thinking how I look in front of the camera, because it's like teamwork, you know, when I think how I look in the camera. So I help the photographer to make everything more easy, you know. But I'm just enjoying it. Sometimes it depends on the photography. Sometimes I can be a model and I just can stay still, you know, for like 2 hours and I'm like suffering in my head. So yeah, that all depends on work.
Gotcha. And if you have someone who's modeling for a photo that you're taking and they're very stiff and rigid, they can't relax, maybe they're anxious, caught in their head, what advice would you give them?
Oh, that's very complicated type of people. But you know, sometimes it's not always good to be like like do a lot of moves, and you know, like some people don't feel good in that, and some people just look better when I put them in the right poses, you know. So it all depends on the photographer. Good photographer will explain you how to move. Good photographer is never silent on a photo shoot. He works with you and he always leads you, you know, like for example, if it's in a studio, you can play music, yeah, that client likes. You always lead the client, and you always, if he doesn't know how to move, unfortunately you can't learn it in 1 hour session. So I will lead the clients and I will say in which poses to take. And always my clients are like, oh my God, you're the best because you weren't silent and you was helping me all the time. So it's a job of photographer just to know the good angles and to lead the person, and just use a person as a sculpture, you know, change all the positions. That's how it works when you have limited time.
That's really strong advice. And now a contrasting question. Let's say you're taking a photo or a video of someone and they're too overconfident. There's too much going on and they're moving on, or maybe there's a bit of conflict between you and the client. How do you deal with that?
I never had such experiences. How would you, like somebody on drugs or what? I mean, like,
You know
like
what?
just
I don't
crazy
know.
moving. Like, no, I think you can't be overconfident on a photo shoot. Like, I never had such experience. You just work in the temp rhythm with the person, and if the person is like a little bit crazy, you do crazy photos, or you just lead. Yeah, like client needs to obey. Like client needs to listen to you because he comes to you because he trusts you. So he needs to listen to you, and it's just like communication. I can do nothing more. It's just communication if they hear me or no. Just adult communication. But if the client is crazy, just do crazy photos. You can try to use that.
I like that. I like using the energy of the
Yeah.
client. And now you've spoken a lot about Tom Ford as a key icon of yours. Who would be your ideal client to take photos of?
You know, I really love to work with men. I don't know why, but I really love to work with men. And I would explore it more because I really love men's fashion. It's very beautiful. So maybe I would like to work with actors, you know, like with opera singers. They're just very cool energy. And I don't have like people ideas in my life, in my head, but it would be just like general ideas which I have. So that's more interesting for me. The ideas, locations, style, and the person is not so important for me.
Gotcha. That makes sense. And then focusing on advice for men when they're posing for photos, what sort of advice or tips or direction do you tend to give them?
It all depends on the type of person, you know. Some people look better when they're smiling, you know, like very cheerful, but some men are look better when they're like sexy and like mysterious. So you need to know yourself. Like my advice is just know yourself, know who you are, and when you're an adult man, you need to know that already, I guess. Just explore yourself. I think some people don't do that, especially about like your visual appearance. Many people neglect it because they're saying, oh, it's not important, I'm above that. But like we live in a society. We live in a society, it's not an island. And your appearance is very important, how you present yourself in a society. And I feel very ridiculous when I see like adult men and they have no good photos. Like it's just ridiculous, you know. You need to present yourself in a society. You need to have also good photography, like made by your friends, I don't know, or something like that. But yeah, just explore yourself, know your good angles, and that's the most important. Be yourself, I would say.
That makes sense. And now flipping it to women specifically, what advice would you give specifically to women?
Same. I don't think it's important to differentiate it by sex. I don't really love to talk about men and women separately in many spheres because I think it all depends on the person, just generally. You know, like men lie, men cheat, women cheat. So nothing different, but just know yourself. Don't be shy and be open and just enjoy the process. Yeah, and I would say the most important thing, know your body, discover your body, because that is so sad to see like adult women or men, and then you can see that their body language is just like very cold, you know. It's very sad to see that people don't want to discover their bodies, if I can say so. Like they're just very cold and not confident, you know. Just yeah, move freely, like feel your body if you need it. Yeah, if you don't, maybe you don't, but sometimes it's very sad to see very cold closed people. Like that's, I think, the most important thing which you need to achieve in your life, just for you.
Gotcha. And touching on that, how does that connect to your broader philosophy of embracing elegant sexuality?
So elegant sexuality, I'm just very tired that a lot of people think that elegant style is all about modest clothing. It's not. Like, have a look on old Hollywood movies and there is a lot of bombshells and they are iconic.
A lot of bombshells.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Explain that. What do you mean?
I mean, a lot of very sexy, beautiful women that show their bodies and they enjoy it and they use it. Like, I want to use my beauty. Like, why I can't use my beauty? You know, like if you have something, why you not gonna use it? You know, enjoy it. Meanwhile, you have it, because beauty is very, very fast thing. One day you're gonna have it, another day you're not gonna have it. So just use it, what God gave you. And I'm just very tired that women can't sexualize themselves, like they can't enjoy their bodies. If you're gonna go to classy museums and you're gonna see a lot of nudity, if you're gonna go to National Gallery, I went to National Gallery and I had nipple blindness, like I saw nipples everywhere. It was just too much, a lot of naked women everywhere. And meanwhile, if you would like go back to Victorian century when all those painters were creating this art, and like they were putting all those paintings on walls, and people were like, "Oh my God, it's so beautiful!" But then they would see this woman in real life, and they would curse her. They would say, "You're a slut. You're disgusting. You're a fallen woman." But on the wall, she was a goddess. And I'm just very tired of that philosophy. And I think that women can be sexy, can be alluring, sumptuous for themselves, not for men. And I really want to show it to people that I do it because I love it for me. And not everything is moving around men. So that's my most important thing for me, and I'm very irritated by this philosophy in the world.
Gotcha. That's really interesting. How often do you find that you encounter people that have a contrasting view around that? And what would you say to them? If you met someone who was a little bit more conservative and wasn't really sure what this philosophy of embracing elegant sexuality meant, how would you convince them? How would you try and make them open up a little bit more?
I would say like this story about Victorian times and models for paintings. But at the same time, it's very hard to change adult person. It's very hard, and it's it's a long topic to say. But like also how I would say it. So the majority of people who are saying that women are dressed in sexy for men have no relation to fashion. Like they work as accountants, as teachers, they have no idea what the world of fashion is. They have zero connections. And when you're gonna ask like hairstylists, stylists, makeup artists, why do women do that? They would say they do it because they love it. It's very people with two sides, how to say it?
Hypocritical, maybe?
Hypocritical, yes.
Okay.
It's very hypocritical for people to judge what women want if they don't know these women and if they have no relation to fashion. So they're just very poorly educated. It's very poorly educated people who have no clue about fashion, about culture, and about beauty.
Cool. That makes sense. And now, what's next for you in terms of where would you like to go with this Instagram profile? Do you have any key goals? Is there a target number of followers? Is there something you'd like to do?
Well, for me, it's a very complicated question because I'm a refugee and last 3 years I've been just surviving mostly. And I had no clue how my life will end up in like half a year. So I had no plans at all and every day was a struggle. And today I'm just happy to know like what I will do 1 or 2 years ahead of me. But nowadays I can't plan for so long, unfortunately, because I have no clue where I'm going to be like in 5 years. And I would love to move on because I've been influencer for like many years and I really want to change the sphere. Maybe it will be photography or maybe it will be something different. But yeah, right now I'm just trying to figure out my life. Yeah, and I can't say it right now because my life is very, very unpredictable because of this situation, this war.
Yeah, I understand. Then, and you don't have to talk about this if you don't want to, but how have you found being in the UK as a refugee at this moment?
Well, I think UK is very welcoming, but at the same time, like I didn't ask for no help from UK government, you know. So I came here alone. I alone found accommodation. I started working like straight away. So I didn't have any connection with like government in UK. And for me, everything was nice because I have support of my friends. But generally, London is very welcoming. You know, I like to say that London is smiling to me because it's like destiny here. You know, I moved and everything worked so well. Very, very unique experience. So I think if you move here and you have a good job and you found a good place to live, I think this city is great for you. It's very welcoming. But at the same time, it's a big city, so it can be lonely. So,
Are there any other cities in the world that at some point you would absolutely love to live in?
Paris. Paris, but I don't speak French, and I think British people are more welcoming and kind. Meanwhile, French people aren't so much. They have very specific temper, which I kind of like. It's a little bit toxic, and I kind of enjoy it because I'm the same. But yeah, Paris. I think Paris is the most beautiful city in Europe. It's just really my aesthetic anywhere I go. But I think the most important not the city, but people who live there, because it's not the streets which makes you happy. It's people with whom you live in the city. So that's the most important, the people, not the
Gotcha.
streets.
That makes sense. I like that. It's not the streets that make you happy, it's the people. That's quite good. And now, thinking about yourself 10 years ago or 5 years ago, what advice would you give the younger version of yourself?
I think being more self-confident, because like 5-10 years ago I was a teenager and I wasn't very confident, because for me confidence was always about what you achieved in your life, and when you're like little girl 16 years old you didn't achieve nothing actually. And I was really too much about it, thinking like I don't live alone, like I don't have a very good job, like I don't um, I don't I don't like I wasn't confident, you know, like I was thinking that I can't have nice things because I don't deserve it, because I'm still very young and I didn't achieve a lot. And I think it was too much for me. So I would say be confident, don't be shy, and be strong, because like I've been through so many awful things in my life, and nowadays I'm like very self-confident. I achieved so much in my life. I've been through the worst things which can happen with a person in life. So I think just work, enjoy life, be confident, be active, and don't be shy and don't be afraid of people. Yeah, just talk to people. Like a lot of young people are too shy, you know. Don't be shy. Like shy people don't succeed in life.
And where do you draw your inner sense of confidence from, or what makes you feel confident?
I feel confident when I achieve new things. For me, you're confident if you are strong. So my parents were upbringing me with the idea that, Karina, you need to be strong. You need to be always strong, because my parents had very hard life. And they always were like, you need to be strong, you need to be strong. And I had a lot of bad moments in my life. And that's what made me stronger. And I'm really happy that all those bad things happened, because I really know my self-worth. I have very good loving family, and good loving friends. So it really helps me to filter people, to filter men who behave badly with me, to filter just generally people, you know. And I think you need to achieve some success. And for me, it always works like that. You achieve more, you become more successful.
It's really nice. And now, thinking about an older version of yourself in 10 years' time, what advice do you think they would give you now?
Work hard. Work, work, and work. Yeah, I think working hard and loving what you do, be active, train in gym, do good diet, filter bad people, and just enjoy life. Don't overthink. Enjoy what you have now, because you can lose everything in 1 second. Be active, be confident, talk to people, be open, be kind. Something very healthy, like green flags.
Cool, green flags. And picking up on one thing you said there around not overthinking, how do you find the balance between being reflective but then not thinking too much?
I think people who overthink, they have too much free time. Just keep yourself busy with good things, like with productive things. Because I remember I had some times in my life when I wasn't busy enough and I was reflecting too much. And then when you're busy, you just don't have time for that. It can be very, maybe at the same time, toxic advice. But if you feel...
As in, you're saying that the advice you're giving could be received in a toxic way.
Yeah, it can be received as a toxic way. Like, I'm feeling sad, I reflect too much. You're saying that I just need to go and clean floors in my house. Like, just... that's the problem with European people. Like, you mostly live your life in very safe places. You never had awful big crises, awful big wars, different big riots in your cities, and you reflect too much and you grow up in very safe zone. And I've been traveling a lot, and I see a lot of young people who are just so afraid, and they reflect so much. They hate their cities, and they're just afraid to move. And that's what I'm saying, reflecting too much. Just like find a job that you love and take risks. Because I called my moving to London a suicide plan, because I didn't believe it will work, and it worked so well. And just have a thick skin, and discover what you love in life. Like, life is so big and full of interesting things, and it's all about your perception of life. Like, I was a very, very negative person. I was a very big pessimist. I was afraid of everything. I didn't believe in my success till full-scale war, and then it happened, and I felt down. I lost everything. My family lost everything, and people were dying around me, and bombs were exploding around me. And then I stepped out of that, and I moved, and I started working, and I was like, well, I was at the bottom of my life, and nothing bad happened. So I'm a human. I have high intelligence, and I can improve everything. And I was at the bottom of my life, and I went up, and now I'm in London, living in a beautiful place, have beautiful friends, have lovely life. And you can take risks, Don't just sit in your house and be afraid. Take risks, safe times make weak people. Hard times make strong people. And that's the problem in Europe. That's a big problem for young people. They're just reflecting too much. They're afraid to act.
Interesting. And to pick up on something you've touched on a few times around communication and having the courage to speak to new people, what is the number one lesson in communication with other people that you've learned?
I still have problems with communication, but I think just start talking. It's interesting that when you're making new friends in like new places, nobody remembers the first question or phrase you said to a person. It's funny, and everybody just remembers the general topic. So just don't be afraid, act, and what's gonna be the worst, what's gonna happen, they will say no. That's all. Yeah, like just be brave and be interesting, have interest in life and be active, be kind, be open-minded, don't be toxic, and people will feel it, I guess.
And what is your favorite quotation and why?
So recently I saw a quote, I don't know who said it. I have a couple of them, but everything will be good at the end. And if it's an end and everything is bad, it means that it's not an end yet. Sorry about my bad English. Because like I'm reflecting a lot about it as refugee and everything what happens in Ukraine. And like everything is so bad. And then I remember that everything will be good at the end. And I'm hoping and like that you can change it somehow. So I really like this quote. And also my favorite, another quote, it's better to be vulgar than boring.
Oh, interesting. Oh, wow. Wow. These are two very different quotes, but that's good. Better to be vulgar than boring.
Yeah, it's actually Diana Vreeland, very famous woman in fashion. So, yeah.
Excellent. Okay, that's a really strong note to end on. Thank you for your time today. It's been good.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, job done. How do you feel?
Good.